I would like to take some lessons from the first episode of the sixth season of Kings, aired last night on Univer Video and Record TV. Those who are following, and even to those who are not, the sixth season starts from chapter 2 of 2 Samuel, the book of 2 Samuel. So we are on the second chapter of Samuel, and in there we understand that straight after the death of King Saul, what happened to David? Let's remember here, David was anointed king before defeating Goliath when he was a youth. God anointed him, but did not yet establish him as a king immediately. David had to serve Saul for a while, and David had a honeymoon period with Saul, so to speak. It was when Saul liked David very much. Still, after the great victory against Goliath, and remember that the women even made a song to celebrate the victory. Saul killed 1,000 and David killed 10,000. So in there, the heart of King Saul began to envy and become insecure about David. Now he's going to take my place. He'll be a king in my place. So Saul began to pursue David. And David spent many years running away through caves and deserts of Israel, and Saul pursuing him. Finally, after many years, Saul died. He committed suicide after losing a battle against the Philistines, throwing himself on his own sword. David was very saddened because he had to see that situation of Saul dying, but also his good friend Jonathan, the son of Saul, who was his best friend. Now David had to take his place on the throne of Israel, but David would not take it by force. What happened? At the beginning of chapter 2, it says that David consulted the Lord. After Saul's death, David consulted the Lord, and God guided him to go up to Hebron, a city of Judah. So David went to Hebron, and there he was anointed as king. And the inhabitants of Hebron in Judah went to him and established him as the king over Judah. Judah was one tribe out of 12 tribes of Israel. So David was recognized as king by only one tribe of Israel. Meanwhile, Saul's general, captain, named Abner, you can see on chapter 2, verse 8, that says, "But Abner, the son of Ner, commander of Saul's army, took Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and he made him king over all Israel." So Saul's army's captain thought like this: Saul died, Jonathan died, the other son who became paralytic. Now the only one who was left was Ishbosheth. Let's make him our king. Now Israel had two kings, the son of Saul, Ishbosheth, king over the other 11 tribes, and Judah, who anointed David as king. And David stayed in Hebron, Judah, reigning for 7.5 years, ruling over Hebron. What is the lesson we can learn out of so many? One of the main lessons we can learn from this event in David's life in Israel. You see that it is one thing for you to receive a promise from God. It is another to take possession of it. This is what you learn, what we learned. David had the promise of God, had every right to reign over Israel by a divine command. But the people did not accept David as king. Remember that within David's house, he was not accepted by his own brothers. Saul, the king, did not accept him. Now, Abner, the captain, did not accept. He led all Israel to follow another, the son of Saul. So you see that David's life, although he is a God-fearing man, a man according to God's own heart and please God, and etc., he had nothing easy. God didn't take David's enemies and erase them with the snap of his finger. Now you are my servant, you're gonna be the king over Israel, and I will clear the way. I'll take all your enemies from your way. No, it didn't happen like that. David groaned. He had to persevere. He had to persevere, waiting and trusting in God's promise. He had to persevere. If God has put me as king and wants me to be king, then I don't know how, but he will do it. This is the trust of the true servants of God. The fake ones, called servants of God, but they are not. They always want to help God. Abner did not worry on consulting or learning what God's will was. He went by the tradition. The tradition said, when a king dies, his son reigns in their place. So he went and anointed Ishbosheth. He didn't want to know about God's will. He wanted to know about the tradition. This is the way. This is the right way, how things have always been done. But those who want to know God's will, they put it as sovereign. They are not worried about how the world or tradition, they think, how they do out there. No. You see the difference. David went to consult God. What do I do, my father? What do I do? And the Lord said, go up to Hebron. And David obeyed. David went to Hebron not because he wanted to, but because God told him so. Go up to Hebron. God saw everything that was happening. God saw what was happening to Abner, all the rest of Israel. God saw David waiting, patiently waiting that his throne would be recognized by all Israel. God saw that, but that time was necessary. When David was anointed as king, he was a young man. If he occupied the throne of Israel as a young man, he would have done a lot of silly mistakes. He was a youth. So God needed that all that happened to David, that he would be prepared for the right time for him to rule over Israel. As it happened, as it later happened, as you're going to follow through the series, Kings. God knows the time and how. God doesn't make it easier. God uses the difficulties to prepare us, to make us stronger. And that's why it's important that you, me, us, like David, who learn about this with tears, with battles and hardships, it's important that we may learn to trust in God and to persevere in His will. Even though nothing around us makes sense, that we may not understand at first, that people keep on our ears saying, why don't you do this, why don't you do that, it's your right, and this and that. Instead of you giving attention to others, you should give attention to whom? To the voice of God. Trusting God, even though everybody is telling you otherwise. This is the greatest lesson at this beginning of the kingdom of David, even though partially, just one city of the tribe of Judah where he reigned for 7.5 years. waiting that the promise of God will be fulfilled. And you, what do you do when you have a promise that is not fulfilled? Do you give up? Doubt the promise? You hurry in trying to do things your way, or do you do like David? Do you wait with the assurance that the God who promised you does not lie, and if you persevere, at the end, He will fulfill everything that He promised you? Which of the 3 actions do you take? If today's video helped you and you know someone that could benefit from it, share it with them, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, you may do so now. See you later.